Ed Roth Taylor is the son of a powerful noble family of ruffian. He is feared acts like king. One day, Ed receives a letter from his family. He loses everything, his title, his wealth, and even kicked out of his dorm room. They still avoid him because of his bad reputation, but many believe he deserves. Ed feels that life is unfair. The people who judge him don't know the real him. He has been transported into his favorite video game, the failed swordsman of Sylvanas, but a minor villain who appears only at the start of the story. This character in the game's ending. Ed checks his stats and feels hopeless. His stamina is a student of magic, but even a farmer NPC has better stats. But Ed doesn't want the ending where he becomes a beggar. He decides he will steal his chance to build a new life. It is a top school, and anyone who graduates of the scenario, but is also extremely important for him. Since his tuition for they work hard and use his knowledge of the game to survive. His low stats make him doubt if he can succeed. So, he decides to focus on surviving the students and their stares. Ed leaves the academy grounds and goes into the nearby forest with magic. His weak magic drains his energy quickly, and he becomes hungry. He tries to make stew from tree bark. It tastes awful and makes him feel sick. He really hard to build a shelter. He cuts logs, makes a frame, and puts everything together. His stats improve slightly and earns a small achievement. This gives him also good with his hands. Using his handy skills, he crafts a harpoon, which also fish, cooks them, and enjoys his first proper meal in 2 days. Ed hears someone behind him. He turns and sees Princess Phinia. She is his cheating during the entrance exam. Because of her, Ed lost everything. Phinia doesn't understand why Ed hasn't been expelled yet. She thinks he is shameless. Phinia has a special power that lets her see through lies. If she reports him, scolds him, Ed sees his fish burning in the fire, adding to his frustration to divert her attention, then simply bends down and thanks her. Phinia looks at Ed's family, the Roth Taylors, are infamous for their genocidal experiment be destroyed or executed. But for Ed, it's different. He is lucky an advantage in the academy, or else it would be end for him in the game. Ed begins to form. He recalls that it's likely for the class placement test in video games time. Ed knows that Phinia wants to join Class A, the academy's top class, without assistance. Phinia grows suspicious of his offer, thinking it might be a trick. He tells her that if he lies, she can have him expelled immediately. This is his. Ed helps Phinia by telling her the exact location of the magical bead. Following his instructions, she heads there and finds the bead, just as Ed had described. Knew from 3 days ago was a cheater and a liar. But now she finds herself the class placement tests come to an end, and the students gather to await everyone to present the beads they have collected. Some students come forward with different in Class F, for failing to meet the test's requirements. The professor which makes them harder to identify. 2 of these beads were found by the main protector. Glast raises his hand and points to the final student who has retrieved the 3rd bead of the class, leaving everyone in awe. Sitting by the riverside, he remembers from the game that Princess Phinia developed sharp judgment skills because she became so good at spotting lies that no one could trick her. But this skill Phinia gets the title Princess of Love, not because of her beauty, but because she works hard to improve, eventually proving herself and earning respect. Ed getting expelled. But it will ruin the original story. If the story changes him useless, and he will lose his advantage. However, the information Ed is actually a cleverly laid trap. Phinia wants to keep her royal identity at Springs. She wants to prove herself without relying on her status. While she cannot accept it because finding it without her own effort would compromise her values. How she earns the title Princess of Love in the original story. Since Ed can't, as he predicts, Phinia refuses to take the bead, leaving her with he finds the bead instead. Phinia is angry and frustrated. She knows actions ruined her chance to succeed on her own. Ed feels relieved and happy to have He quickly heads back to the academy to attend the opening ceremony for the new semester, feeling more at ease than before. Many students notice the change in his behavior. Now seems like a completely different person. Ed's focus is now clear. Among the groups of students, there is one girl who can't help but notice Ed have changed, as if he's an entirely new person. On his first day back at the academy into new improved form. However, Ed is unexpectedly called to be expelled. However, to his surprise, the principal only smiles and speaks, but feels relieved when he realizes the principal doesn't seem to know about his action. He resolves to stick closely to the original story and avoid straying from it. Over time, he becomes skilled at crafting good quality arrows, and one evening after hunting for food to prepare dinner, Ed heads back to his tent tree. It is the same girl who had noticed him during the opening ceremony, Janek the 2nd year, same year in which Ed is. She sees Ed and excitedly tells him that the magical Marilda tree has shared stories about him with her. This reassures Ed, giving him a sense of calm. He casually remarks that he seems surprised for a moment, but then laughs at his words. She stretches out her hand to be her friend. Ed, however, isn't interested in interacting with Janica for spirit in her hand, and excuses himself, claiming he only came to the area. The reason Ed keeps his distance from Janica is her crucial role in the original story, and building a connection with her might alter the storyline, costing him any info. As Ed walks away, Janica calls her spirit friend, a wild wolf, against Marilda, feeling comfortable, and starts talking to it. She thinks about Lear. Even though she tries hard to be nice to him, Ed only gives short yes last time they meet. The next morning, Ed works hard to avoid being late for the academy. There is always a challenge. But his efforts pay off, as his stats keep him washing his clothes and carefully managing his rations and supplies. He is him from a distance, curious about his routine. When Ed finally notices her, demands to know if she even realizes who he is. Ed Roth Taylor tries to stay distant from Janica, despite her polite and friendly nature. She truly know him. Ed, however, is cautious and wary. He knows Janica won. Ed decides it's safer not to get too close or engage with her more than hardships. Ed takes a risk and asks Janica for a favor. Ed asks for money, her mood instantly changes. Money is Janica's weakness. From a poor background and works hard to stay at the top of her class to maintain her scholarship. With a downcast expression, Janica apologizes and walks away. While hunting, Ed reflects on his conversation with Janica. He regrets handling himself with key characters to preserve the original storyline. When he met another important figure from the game, Lucy Marcel, the rare Lucy wakes up and immediately complains about how loud Ed is, saying she can't sleep. Lucy points to the area behind him. She calmly tells him that a spirit wants to speak to him. Despite Lucy Marcel pointing behind him and claiming a spirit wants to speak, not only has he barely managed to get Janica off his back, but now he has an ability to walk on air, behaves like a stray cat, showing up anywhere. He's now using Ed's campsite and resources to skip classes and rest. Ed acts quickly before her presence causes the storyline to deviate further, casually taking the bait, a chunk of beef, and eating it without a care. Completely ignores him. Ed realizes that if she has already come to his camp multiple, as a seasoned player of the game, he knows there's no strategy to defeat Lucy. Detail from the game guides he read. Something most players overlook. He recently saw maids from Ophelis Hall searching for her. The moment she hears this, first time, she hurriedly makes an excuse about remembering something urgent and vanishes silently thanks his knowledge of the game guides. He remembers that while Lucy is a form, always flees at the mention of dormitory maids. Apparently she has a habit of avoiding them. With Lucy gone, Ed feels a sense of triumph. He's confident her 2 days, grateful it didn't take him long to figure out how to get rid of her. Once again he has managed to satisfied he's starting to feel. As the game story progresses, the first major. This is a mock one-on-one combat exercise where students use fake weapons moment when all the main characters of the game are introduced and meet for the first time. Taylor, the failing swordsman of Sylvania Academy. Ed shows little since the winners are always the first-year main characters, including Taylor. She appears again, full of the same enthusiasm as before, despite Ed used to stick to him like glue. Watching her persistence, Ed jokingly wonders his cat family, given her wandering and clingy nature. Janica trying to be uninterested in the details. But when she casually mentions his name being on the little storyline, Ed Roth Taylor is expelled by the time this quest takes place. His opponent will be. Meanwhile, the most awaited fight of the event begins. Powerful, cat-like mage, Lucy Marcel. Setting the list aside, he still feels a deep connection to Taylor's character. Having spent Ed now inhabits a side character's role, he still wants to cheer for Taylor. This iconic moment from the game. Taylor gripping his sword for the and catching her off guard. Lucy then uses intermediate lightning magic, which the person ever to defeat her. Nostalgia sweeps over Ed, and he eagerly rings the bell, and the match begins. Taylor rushes in with his signature determined his knuckles. But with a single lightning strike, Lucy sends him flying into the wall. Odds, he knows that he refuses to give up. Just as he remembers from the years he faces, he never loses hope. Taylor grabs his sword, charges from the game. But then, something unexpected happens. Instead of Lucy's storyline, she casts a blocking spell, halting Taylor in his tracks, going even farther and exhausting him completely. The announcer declares Lucy will win this fight, but now Lucy has defeated him. This small change might seem story. He fears what might happen next. The crowd cheers for Lucy as Taylor feels a rising sense of panic. This is a huge problem. He quickly realizes magic, the kind that can only be obtained by forming a contract with a high-class guardian spirit Marilda, have no connection. However, Lucy accidentally form a contract with Marilda, making her far stronger than she is. Storyline is his fault, and now the story is spiraling out of control. Taylor, the announcer then calls for the next match. Ed Roth Taylor versus Princess Phenia. Eagerly prepares to settle the score in the duel, but Ed doesn't even acknowledge her. He's already leaving the hall, crushed by his loss. Taylor's defeat is entire would have been expelled from the academy long before this quest began. But because Taylor's loss risks ruining the entire storyline. Catching up to Taylor, Ed back, and Ed knows how crucial it is for him to stay in the academy. Taylor's without him, everything will collapse. Ed does his best to motivate Taylor. Ed knows he is also protecting his own future. If Taylor gives up, Ed will fail. Taylor must stay strong, not just for himself, but for the sake of everything. Ed is person to recognize her judgment ability is Emperor Cloel. Some believe it is on her own after enduring the endless politics and conspiracies within the royal palace through years of navigating the treacherous environment of the imperial family. He has seen the harsh truths of the imperial world clearly, through the lens of the abyss. So, whenever she wants to confront any opponent or person for to judge, match begins, Ed casually tells Princess Phinia to go easy on him. Meanwhile, the audience whispers harsh comments about Ed Roth Taylor, and later cheering him on, making him seem hypocritical. In the original, nice by cheering for him. They think it doesn't make sense. Ed knows they are right. Humiliate his juniors, and when that failed, he cheated in exams and got a water ball and throws it at Ed, wanting to test him. She thinks he will dodge it using himself. He just stands there and takes the hit. Phinia is shocked. Ed not even trying. The audience erupts into cheers for Princess Phinia, declaring her calling him worse than Taylor. Despite this, Ed calmly approaches the princess. This only deepens Phinia's curiosity. She begins questioning why he acted start. Ed makes an intentional choice to forfeit the match. He doesn't want how important she is to the plot. He quickly leaves the arena and goes in search of Taylor, much more significant than the princess, and he wants to make sure Taylor when Phinia suddenly appears behind him, panting. He's surprised to see her, demanding to know what his true intentions are. She accuses him of having no intent quickly as possible. Phinia's frustration boils over.